Hi there, welcome back. Today we're going to be talking a little bit about keyboard accessibility. I already made a video about screen reader accessibility, and you can check a link for that at the end or in the description. But today we're going to focus on something else. We're going to focus on using your keyboard to navigate web pages or apps. And the reason why that is important is sometimes you don't have access to a mouse, or your mouse runs out of battery temporarily, or for some other reason there is no mouse, like maybe it's a server rack, maybe it's an access point somewhere where mouses are not like very visible. And so the keyboard is a really good interaction point for navigating stuff and for making sure that you do what you need to do with the computer. It's also a really good way to like get a little extra power in terms of interaction ability. So you can actually use your left mouse, your left hand for the keyboard, your right hand for the mouse. You can use them both at the same time. You get much faster, much more productive that way. So accessibility is never always just about the impairment. It's also helping regular folks that might not have any impairment. And then there's an extra use case for accessibility, especially on the keyboard, that I'm going to be talking about very soon. So without further ado, let's go at it. I already kind of diddle-daddled a little bit about this on this first part. I've picked like the linear website because I feel like it has really interesting, really well thought of accessibility features. So let's start by reloading the website so that we get like a fresh interaction state. And the first thing that you need to know about keyboard accessibility is one of the most important things is the tab key. So let's press the tab key. So we see that we press the tab key, and the first thing that pops up on the interface is this skip to content feature. So this is a skip to content interactive element. And so the goal here is like, while with your eyes you can actually skip to reading like the tagline and the description and the CTA, with your keyboard you would actually by default go to the first element on the HTML of the page, and that will be the linear logo most of the times. Not always, but most of the times it is the logo. So let's press enter to skip to content. So enter will actually interact with whatever most of the interactive elements on the page, not all of them, but most of them. So you click enter, and now you're in the main content, which of course it's the heading. But you could also press like shift tab to go back. So now we're on the sign up. We're now on the login. Let's go back all the way to the first one. Yes, you see that also on the bottom left of your screen, or my screen in this case, you see like where this link leads through, right? So you can actually use that as another helper. So linear.app features, linear.app method, right? Really cool, really interesting. Another thing you already noticed is the focus state. So the focus state is that little style around whatever you're using the keyboard to focus on. And it's important that it has a really good contrast, so that users can clearly see what's focused. And this is yet another use case. Most of the times you wouldn't get focus with the key, with the mouse, that is. But there's actually a use case for that, especially when you have a website that might have users that are getting closer to 60 and over. And for users that might start having some problems with memory, knowing the last thing that you clicked on a page might be important. So imagine that someone called you, like you got like a call on the phone and you answered, then now you come back to the page or to the app and you're like, where was I? What was the last thing that I clicked? You wouldn't know if there wasn't a focus state. So there's actually a really good use case for actually also having focus state on clicks. Most designers feel it's a bit ugly, so we tend to kind of like go for, okay, if you use a keyboard, it gets a focus. If you use the mouse, it doesn't. Know that there is this use case for that, and so know your user and adjust to what they need. So let's continue tabbing a little bit to see clearly what's actually focused, and you start moving around. You see that, like in this case, even the interactions have some focus state. Cool. So I think we're good here, right? So I'm going to show you like an example of when the designer decision gets in the way of the default and the probably legal accessibility that website should have, even though it's like saying that it's not following the law, it's not necessarily true, but it's not optimal. It's not thought for the user needs. It's mostly thought for your own needs. So we're at the Klarna.com US website. I work for Klarna, so I'm not putting anyone under fire or anything. I see it more of like a little tip for my former colleagues on something that they might be able to look at. Because while I was there, I actually recorded some audits about accessibility of the website, because I was working with the Klarna website design system. So let's do Command R to refresh the page to get like the fresh interaction, like from the start as intended. And when you press Tab, the search opens, right? That was a design decision, because someone decided the most important thing that needs to happen on this page is to open the search. That might not actually be what the user is looking for. Now imagine that I came here to understand how Klarna works. I heard about the product. I want to use buy now, pay later features that Klarna has, but I need to understand it first before I make an account, before I make my Klarna card, and I start actually having a login. So I get this search. This is definitely not what I wanted, and now the only way to kind of like go back to that navigation on top is I first have to close this, and now I need to press Shift Tab until finally I get the help, and then I get how Klarna works. Now I would click it, and then I'd have like another menu. So you're not seeing another issue here, right? Like I clicked how Klarna works. Now I expected the focus to be on what is Klarna after, right? Because now we have a menu that is open. That is not what is happening. Interestingly enough, this is something I referred way back when we did this the first time. So there we go. Now we are there. So a little weird that it took so long to get that focus. Maybe something to even look at now. Oh, okay. So now we got focused. When we got out of the little pop-up, we got focused on the browser itself. So another thing to look at. Well, let me show you like a better way to deal with this if you have search and if you have content, which is basically LinkedIn. So let me refresh again, and now let's press Tab. And now you see that you have two options. You have like a skip to search, and then you have a skip to main content. If you want to search, you just press enter here. If you want the main content, you press enter here. And now you even have the main content focused, which is a really extra cherry on the top in terms of accessibility with the keyword, making sure that I know exactly where I focused. Let's maybe show another bad example. Oh, yeah. Let's refresh. So I wanted to show something mine so that I'm not like, oh, I'm the accessibility genius. No, I actually have some stuff that I need to look at on my website. One of them is, and this is more disputable, I don't really have that strong focus state with all of that contrast. I think mine still meets the contrast, but I need to test to double check. So press Tab, and as you can see, the first navigation item is focused. I don't really have a skip to main content because I don't know. I feel like I have so little like navigation that doesn't really warrant that skip to content, because now it can be like work, content. And actually I felt like I came here, I want to look at work. Maybe the navigation gets me there faster. There is another mistake that I have here, which is I completely forgot about the focus state for anchors, for hyperlinks. So now we're on that little ADP list link, and we don't have any visual confirmation that we're there other than the thing that popped up in the bottom left of the corner. So another thing to be looking at. Let me just move because there was something else. Yes. So now we're focused on the image, which is also a link. And so there is no visual indication that actually focused there, other than that thing popping up in the bottom left. So another thing that I might want to fix, but it still works, is if I press enter, it will work. If I shift again, you're gonna get the read more. Maybe just a little bit of extra effort here so that my website actually gets accessible, fully accessible. I wanted to talk to you about one exception to the enter rule, which is the checkboxes and the radios. I think there's one or two like drop downs and stuff like that that also kind of works the same way. So if I now focus on the scales checkbox, I can, if I try to press return, nothing happens, right? If I press enter, nothing happens. So the way to interact with these is to press space, interacts. In design systems that I worked on, I've actually set up enter to also do this, because I feel like maybe you temporarily ran out of battery on the mouse, like I suggested, and you don't really remember that you need to press space. Maybe it's good enough that you press enter like other interactive elements. And that's pretty much that. I want to kind of like guide you to one of the best sources of documentation about not only accessibility, but I would say HTML and patterns, like UX patterns. It's the Mozilla Developer Network web docs. And so they have like this page for keyboard accessibility. You can come here to actually check like the nitty gritty. So things like focus element should have interactive semantics, like saying what the role of the thing is, explaining tab index also. Like, so tab index is the order at which things focus on the screen. Normally you leave it intact by default. If you have good HTML, it should be focused by default, but sometimes you want to still focus for maybe like a cookies pop up or something like that, or maybe you want to skip something on the keyboard and have it only interactive when you use the mouse. For those things, you might want to use like tab index -1 to kind of like remove it from the order and from the actual interactions that you can do with the keyboard. And then like you can come here and read all the documentation, or if you feel afraid to read like maybe more developer focused documentation, I really recommend Stephanie Walters' Accessibility for Designers resources. She has compiled like this list of stuff that designers might want to read about accessibility. There's getting started, there's checklists. I really recommend this. I'll leave a link to both in the description of the video. And that's pretty much it. I hope you liked it. This is, as I said, just a little introduction, a little flavor of what you want to be thinking about as a designer. And so I hope you liked it. If you did, put the like on the video, consider subscribing. And so we got like the YouTube basics covered. And I hope to see you later. Bye-bye.